and welcome to the MHR podcast. I'm Emma.
And I'm Andy.
How are you doing, Andy?
All right, okay. Yeah, rolling on to the end half of 2023, aren't we? So.
No, and look at us, we're in spooky season and fireworks season.
Yeah.
It's my best time of the year, I think.
Yeah,
Apart from Christmas.
No, I need to be locked in a small room so I don't get startled. Otherwise, I won't eat my dinner.
You're like a frightened little rabbit.
Like a little spaniel. Yeah.
Oh.
I can give or take it. I don't mind, but I do think it's interesting. My week at work this week has all been about looking ahead, planning for next year. I feel like that's what most people are doing at the moment.
We're definitely in the planning phase now. I mean, we've got sort of seven-ish working weeks left.
It doesn't feel like a lot, does it?
Q1's coming around pretty quick. And one thing that we have been working on as a business is looking ahead at what to expect in the changing world of work in 2024. Now, followers of MHR's social and content for some time will know that every year we release what we call our business predictions report, where we speak to stakeholders both around the business and look to reach out externally to consultants and those working in the industry on what they think is going to happen in the world of work in HR, payroll and finance in the new year.
Yep, and it's always one of the highest read things that we do here at MHR, actually, talking about what we can predict.
I'm pretty proud of it.
Yeah, we should be pretty proud of it. And we thought, actually, with that releasing soon, this might be a good opportunity for us to steal a bit of the limelight and give you a bit of a preview.
We're doing a little cheeky flavour of it for you. You're welcome. So what we've done is we've picked out our top sort of 3 topics that we think are particularly pertinent in the report that's coming out shortly, both across HR, payroll and finance. So the first one that I've pulled up for us to talk about here, Andy, is the great HR burnout.
Interesting. So we've talked a lot this year about kind of people reaching their work limits, about what HR need to do to help combat burnout. And it looks like this is something that's being predicted to continue or get worse into 2024. Is that right?
No, absolutely. So, we've got advisors in here saying about how staff turnover has exploded with movements like the mass resignation and quiet quitting, really starting to pick up pace. And it's important that these should act as reminders to employers that their people matter. Okay. And engaged, happy people matter even more.
So one of the headline stats here is that 84% of HR professionals say they regularly feel stressed.
That's a pretty scary stat.
Yeah.
And more than half of those are considering quitting in the next year as well. So over 50% of those are looking to potentially move on. So, you run the risk there of organisations having to prepare for a pretty big talent gap.
Yeah.
Or trying to find ways to ensure that their HR teams don't experience burnout.
Well, it's interesting for us to look at it this way, because obviously, as a company that prides itself in being experts in all things HR, payroll, finance, learning, analytics, all of that stuff that we do for lots of other businesses, we've talked in this podcast about the employee lifestyle, and we've talked about the world of work generally for employees, and all those topics we've discussed in terms of like quiet hiring and firing and all of these things. What I find really interesting about this predictions report, or this kind of roadmap for 2024 that we're releasing soon, is that it looks on the impact of all of these factors that have happened this year and what that means for the HR professionals that our services support. And and you often think, burnout is a HR problem, hiring is a HR problem, recruitment might be a HR problem. Well, if you keep as a business thinking that all these things are HR problems, you shouldn't be surprised that your HR department are going to burn out.
No, exactly. It's important to look inward on these things. Yes, all of those things that you've just mentioned are covered under the HR umbrella, but that has to be handled somewhere.
Yeah.
And the fix to that situation isn't always obvious. Do you manage it through churn, and do we move on until we have different people in place, or do we look to see how we can change inward? And one of the suggestions that we have as a business, and from the experts on the panel that we had talking to us as part of the business predictions is looking at automating key processes.
Yeah.
So, as we enter 2024, more and more organisations will look to embrace digital transformation, looking to get those time-consuming manual processes automated and just take a lot of that pressure off your plate. I think a great example of that is in recruitment. Imagine somebody, and we discussed this last week actually as part of our Christmas hiring episode, a person that works in recruitment that has to manage a significant amount of applications, talking to them directly, reaching out to them. By automating that process, that recruitment process of getting forms through digitally, by getting digital signatures, through email triggers and all of that sort of thing, that takes a lot of that work away and can just contribute to trying to reduce that risk of burnout.
Well, the other recommendation that our guide recommends is that they recommend that HR teams start treating themselves the same way as they would an employee that they put their processes for.
Absolutely.
Might seem like a weird thing to say, or obvious, but it's true. So you've got to identify that actually HR professionals who are over encumbered with the admin or the processes that aren't working for an organisation when they're trying to deal with these people issues need to identify that they suffer from the same issues. They need to seek support, and most of all, they need to be kind to themselves. Especially if you find yourself in this position. You're not expected to be better than it. You need to be able to resolve it in the same way, and that's why you do the job you do for other people, right? So stress management workshops can be incredibly useful and have been proven to be very useful, as well as making sure that you're taking annual leave appropriately. So that's one of the recommendations that the guide makes.
Yep, and again, we can pull on one of our more recent episodes where Jules came on to talk to us about mental health awareness. It's looking to apply those behaviours and applying those thoughts to yourself as well as putting in those policies and procedures in for other people.
We're experts on theory, aren't we, as a company, in terms of HR theory, payroll, finance, all the things that we should know about. We know a lot about it and we talk a lot about it. But like every organisation, it's very easy to talk about. It's much harder to actually do and to implement.
Absolutely.
So what you really need is a department or a managerial structure and a culture and a set of values, as well as the technology, quite importantly, that is going to enable you to look at those HR issues, to establish where your team is burning out, to establish where they're being burnt a bit too thin, and go, how can we automate those processes, and how can we enable the people that are doing the work for us to be supported too? And that's where we start blowing the trumpet for the kind of things that we sell, but we won't do that now. But the point is, point number one, HR department burnout is a crucial one, and I think reflecting on what we've talked about for at least the first half of this year is something that we need to look at technology to help us support and automate those processes where we're using human time and effort when we're burning ourselves a bit too thin.
And actually, that brings us on quite nicely to the second trend that I wanted to have a look at, and this is more in the payroll area, which is flexible pay. So financial wellbeing. Again, this is something that we've touched on a couple of times this year, where we've looked at ways in which employers can support their teams in making, helping them feel more in financial control. And as part of that financial wellbeing element, with the cost of living, etc., it's been a pretty hot topic this year.
Well, the first half of the year was all about real time or flexible or kind of pay as you earn payroll, right?
Yeah, and as we move into the latter half of the year and go into the new year with the new sort of technologies that we've got available, actually it extends way beyond just looking at what you earn in advance, but actually looking at ways in which you can support your employees in managing that as well. So, we are working with a company whereby we offer financial coaching, where we look at building savings pots and all of that sort of thing. And that's the kind of thing that we want to start introducing into 2024. And that's not just something that we reflect on as a business. Actually, 78% of employees have said that they would quit for another employer that values financial well-being. So actually has that as part of their package. And almost 90% of organisations have admitted to making payroll mistakes that have led to incorrect or late pay. So having that option to look at flexible payments as part of a financial wellbeing package is a way to sort of effectively counteract that, if you like. And it's become more of a significant concern for employees than ever before. So close to 7% of employees are considered to be distracted or unengaged at work due to financial stress. And such employees are 5 times more likely to need to take time off, adding up to 7 extra sick days a year. So this increased absenteeism, and I know we've touched on this before, Andy, costs organisations a staggering $2.5 billion a year.
Yeah.
So this is becoming a particularly hot topic, but not just from a trends and current circumstances perspective, but actually, is this something that we should be integrating into our standard daily practice from a work point of view moving forward?
And also, the ever shifting cultural expectation from an employee base, be it different generation or whatever, of what they expect from a workforce. Okay, I'm coming into a world of work now where we have a cost of living crisis, where I expect more from the organisation I work for to give me financial flexibility or support so I can help afford to live or plan for the future. It's not just you pay me, I take it, I'll figure it out myself. I expect that level of support and education from my workplace.
No, exactly. And I think as we move into 2024, according to trends that we've seen in the report as well, we're going to see more and more companies leading the charge on these sort of financial wellbeing services. So, for example, something that we've talked about a lot as a business this year is, for example, real-time payroll. Being able to see what you've earned as you are earning it is just that first step, but actually also introducing other services such as kind of that wage access as part of a financial wellbeing package can also really help.
And the third main, so obviously it's worth mentioning as well, the roadmap to 2024, the guide that we're releasing shortly, that you'll be able to download, covers a myriad of topics. It's very comprehensive. It covers a lot of expert opinion, a lot of expert research, and it covers loads of things. We've just pulled out a few. But the last one we'll talk about today that it highlights as a key factor to talk about for next year is autonomous finance.
Yes, so we've got a stat here that says 64% of finance chiefs believe that autonomous finance will be a reality within 6 years.
What does that mean?
So just a quick explainer of what autonomous finance is. Effectively, we talk quite a lot about automating certain processes. This same applies here for finance. The difference being is that you have certain things that would be potentially the job role of a certain person or a certain role that is then covered by an automated process. So say, for example, this could be consolidation of accounts from across the business. You can implement software in place that can gather all of that data for you to reduce a significant amount of days that could be spent potentially compiling different types of data.
Okay.
And really looking to reduce that manual labour that I guess goes into it. But one thing that has been made as a point here, which is from one of our experts, John Rose, is that it's true that a lot of tasks in finance are really monotonous, such as that consolidation that I've just mentioned there. And often it's the same tasks every month. But we have an issue still at this point where people actually like the comfort of doing those tasks themselves.
Okay. That gives someone a worth to their job. They enjoy the process.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. And there's concern, certainly in the finance world, where they tend to be just that slight bit more risk averse in terms of, accepting new technologies and what their capabilities are, to actually be able to embrace that technology as part of the business.
Okay.
And the conversations are starting to shift away from having autonomous finance software as a replacement into becoming an enabler.
Okay.
And we've discussed this as the pair of us in our podcast before, is that technology shouldn't be seen to replace the work of humans, much like we've discussed in the reality of AI session. Actually, it should be seen as an enabler in making your job much more easy, much more efficient, and therefore you can focus on more of the strategic planning.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because we have talked about that a lot, and it's getting rid of that fear of going, oh, an AI bot is going to take my job. No, an AI bot is going to mean that I can focus my skills and development in the area where I can offer value to a business, and actually remove the time and labour of my time, which is worth a lot to the business, and put that onto something that can automate it and actually do a thorough job there. Where AI is used to get more value out of me. Not to lose what I can do.
But it also, it doesn't just automate those mundane processes and save us a bunch of time, which actually I'm sure we're pretty all grateful for. But actually it's also capable of delivering those real-time predictive insights as well, and those much more accurate insights, which ensures that you're better off from a compliance point of view as well, which is super, super important for finance teams. And you can be much more flexible and agile with your strategies as a result, because you can actually, act and perform based on real-time figures and not spending, days, potentially weeks, trying to compile that information and verifying that information as well.
I like the analogy you put here. This is obviously from the guide, which is, however, it is unlikely that autonomous finance will push out finance employees. Instead, they'll work as a co-pilot, removing monotonous tasks and improving efficiency.
I think that's that's the perfect way to wrap it up, really. I think it's important for teams to embrace what technologies such as autonomous finance solutions can offer. Yeah. And likewise, we see the same thing across our HR and payroll systems as well. We've had a certain way of working for so many years. What we need to understand now is that technology isn't a scary concept. We're starting to embrace it more in our day-to-day lives from both a consumer point of view and from a business point of view. What we now need to see as we're moving into 2024 is understanding how we can best leverage that technology. We're not just seeing fads. We're not just seeing things that are going to go away, in a couple of months, couple of years' time. This is technology that's around to stay, and we need to get the best out of it that we can.
Okay, so wrapping up the headlines of what you can expect from that kind of roadmap for 2024 guide that we're releasing quite shortly. There will be a lot more that you can discover. You can find that on the MHR global website, and I'm sure we'll give you a quick heads up when that's out on our socials. However, I wanted to play a little game now, Emma.
Okay.
So one of the favourite things I like about these kind of prediction reports we do is obviously every year as MHR, as experts, we go, this is what's going to come into the world of work. These are the things and the topics that people are going to discuss, that businesses are going to be wrapped up around. And as you can imagine, a lot of them are like, for this year, are AI and all the stuff that we've discussed. But what the guy does really well now is look at the 2023 flops. And I want to say a few words to you, and I want to see if you... If you remember what they mean or what that would mean for us in the business. So first one, the first flop, right, of 2023 that we thought would be a big topic that didn't really take off in businesses as much as we thought was.
Top of the flops, if you like.
Top of the flops.
Top of the flops.
Is blockchain.
Oh, that's like NFT, like cryptocurrency type
This
of
was huge for the last
thing.
couple of years. Let's make sure we get blockchain right. What's happened there? What's going on with blockchain?
I couldn't even tell you what's going on there.
That's the first one. Second one, VR in an office context.
Oh, okay.
Doesn't work.
Okay.
Virtual reality was talked. To be honest, virtual reality has been talked about for a number of years across lots of different sectors, and everyone's gone. We can't really find the use for it. I think when you're looking like a retail setting, or you're looking at construction or manufacturing setting, you can see a lot of applications. But when you're working about like an office 9 to 5 kind of
like a professional services consultancy sort of place,
the application has been very hard to kind of prove.
We can't even get all people to turn their webcams on. Never mind using
the
VR headsets. Yeah. I think it's starting to find its niche a bit more in those sectors, like you just mentioned. But it's certainly not going to be the mass rollout that I think was intended.
Is it? And the last one that was talked about a lot for 2023, but has been a bit more of a flop, is the realities of ChatGPT and AI tools.
You see, we kind of covered this just at the end of that last segment there.
Yeah.
It's not that those tools are not revolutionary, but actually it's the reality of how we can actually use them.
I think the big kind of blowout and fear and narrative that we had at the start of this year about how it's going to change the world and we're going to lose all our jobs and everyone doesn't understand it have been squashed. And I think the world is being a lot more pragmatic now about the application for what AI means and how it's going to support us. So it's less that these things aren't big. They were a very big topic for 2023, but they are a practical solution where people are finding ways to bring business forward rather than a big Y2K fear.
Yeah, they've been compartmentalised a little bit more. Yeah. I mean, if you want to take a listen to how we, what the perceptions were of it earlier in the year, we've got our...
You can listen to one of our previous episodes.
Thank you. We've got one of our, I think it was the Us versus the Machines podcast, which I think was around sort of late January, early February. God, we've aged since then, Andy. Where we looked at what the perception was at that time. And there was a lot more, I wouldn't say scaremongering, but there was a lot more concern around what the capabilities of these AI tools were and what it was going to mean for the world of work. And actually... It's as I say, it's become a lot more compartmentalised since then, and it's being put into boxes and categories, which make it a lot more easy to digest.
A lot of the things I keep reading are the limitations of this AI employee we've got. So, and now it seems like people have gone away from going, they're going to take our jobs to, I wish these bots would be a bit better because they're not quite up to scratch yet.
They're not quite there yet. Just a quick special shout out before we finish off this one. As always, we have some special sign-offs and signatures for this week. So, transcendental. Assistant to the producer, Tom, hasn't quite got that word correctly. I think he means transcendent. It's not transcendental. Metaphysical, I can hear him shouting in the studio now. Shut up. Metaphysical regards, Tom. Business psychic specialist. Well, there you go. There you go. That's all we've got time for this week. Please do keep an eye out for when our predictions guide comes out. It should be coming out very shortly, and it will be called 2024, What to Expect in the Changing World of Work. A lot of time and effort's been put into it. Really do recommend it. It will be a fantastic read.
That's all.
That's all, folks.
That's us for this week. I've been Andy.
And I've been Emma.
We'll see you next week for more chat about the world of work.
You shall.